Good morning. I'm Carrie Stambo. I'm a staff attorney at Legal Aid of the Bluegrass, and I'm an Equal Justice Works Fellow in the Opioid Crisis Response Program, and I served as a Rural Summer Fellow as well through Equal Justice Works. Before I became an attorney, I spent 2 decades as a journalist working in Central Appalachia, a place where the opioid epidemic isn't just a headline, it's daily life. I published crime blotters. I sat through fiscal court meetings where jailers begged for medical support for folks who were withdrawing in their cells. I attended legislative hearings where advocates pleaded for help to create treatment beds that didn't exist in rural Kentucky. I wrote about soaring overdose rates that stole thousands of lives and left survivors highly stigmatized. And I covered the broader challenges facing rural communities: housing instability, generational poverty, and the constant struggle to build opportunities where resources are scarce. The communities I worked in became my community, and I wanted to do more and more meaningful work for the people who became my friends and neighbors. Over time, I realized something. Reporters point out problems, but attorneys solve them. I wanted to be a problem solver. Not just for those affected by addiction, but for anyone who needed an advocate. And while that motivation came from wanting to serve my community, the opioid crisis was woven into the lives of people I loved, and therefore it was woven into mine. My cousin and best friend from birth, Daniel, became addicted, prescribed opioid pills for a sports injury that led him down the path to heroin and then to fentanyl. My husband, Carl, served 23 years as a firefighter in his hometown of Ashland. During that time, he ran thousands of overdose calls. Often, he couldn't save classmates or neighbors. And he watched even the most dedicated firefighters struggle with compassion fatigue as the opioid crisis raged on. He retired the day before I took my bar exam. At the same time, legal aid attorneys across Kentucky were seeing the epidemic show up in civil courtrooms, in housing cases, in public benefits cases, cases involving veterans, and in domestic violence cases where abusers weaponized addiction to gain custody of children. So in 2021, Kentucky's 4 legal aids came together to launch Project Renew, a statewide collaborative effort to support families and communities impacted by addiction. Research from the Kentucky Access to Justice Commission showed that resolving these legal issues remove barriers to recovery and help people build the stability that they need. And we know our clients rarely have just one legal problem. They face many, and they're intertwined. Project Renew's idea is simple: combine holistic legal services and supportive community partnerships to strengthen the 4 evidence-based pillars of recovery: health, home, community, and purpose. In other words, help clients untangle their legal knots so they can build the lives they want, brick by brick. The year Project Renew launched, I started law school. I joined Legal Aid of the Bluegrass as a summer law clerk in my rural Moorhead office, and I worked through law school and convinced Legal Aid to hire me at graduation. A few weeks after passing the bar, I was named an EJW Fellow. Over the last 5 years, I've watched Project Renew grow, and I've seen firsthand why this work matters. People who have battled addiction are criminalized, dehumanized, and deeply stigmatized, even long into recovery. By the time they reach legal aid, many of them have lost hope that the legal system can help them. So Project Renew attorneys begin by breaking down barriers. We build trust. We become the go-to resources in recovery communities for legal help. We do this through outreach, going to recovery centers, hosting education events, meeting one-on-one with clients, attending reentry council meetings, joining community health coalitions, and completing hundreds of in-person intakes. Because the first barrier to accessing civil legal services is knowing that a problem is a legal problem. And the second is knowing who to call. Once a person in recovery connects with legal aid, we help them to identify which cracks in their foundation, in community, in health, in home, in purpose, need to be repaired and can be done so through legal services. To support community, we represent individuals in family law cases, helping clients end marriages that threaten their recovery often after decades of intimate partner violence. To support home, we represent individuals facing eviction and educate communities on fair housing and Kentucky landlord-tenant laws. To support health, we help individuals access public benefits and insurance coverage and educate courts and the private bar about what medicated assisted treatment is, a protected health treatment that should never be used as a reason to deny custody or timeshare. To support purpose, we partner with organizations like Goodwill to represent thousands of individuals in criminal record expungements. Expungements restore a person's ability to participate fully in their family and community, to work, to volunteer, to coach, to be paid for caregiving they already provide. And most importantly, it allows a person in recovery to match on paper the person they've become inside. And even when outcomes aren't what clients had hoped for, they often tell me they're satisfied because they were given a chance they would have never taken without a legal aid attorney standing by their side. And as overdose deaths begin to fall, thousands more people are reaching recovery, and they will have legal needs for decades. I know this personally because my cousin Daniel, Narcan saved him from a fatal overdose, and treatment transformed him. But 9 years into his recovery, he is still untangling the legal knots that his addiction created. And that's why this work must continue. Because when someone reaches recovery, the legal system should not be the next barrier they face. It should be the hand that helps to lift them up. And as attorneys, judges, and funders who shape and fund this work, you already know and understand the power of the law. Project Renew shows its humanity. It shows that when we use the law to remove barriers instead of reinforcing them, people can rebuild their lives, families can be reunited, and communities can heal. Sustaining this work means sustaining hope and ensuring every person in recovery has the chance and the support they deserve to build the life they want. Thank you.